before, and then Amparo is a really good presenter. But then so it's just an unfortunate situation that the internet is not very how do you say, collaborating with us today. So now that I would really I have a pleasure to introduce Anita, Dr. Anita from Malaysia. So without losing any time, so I will just hand over the microphone to Anita. So Anita, the floor is yours.
Hello everybody, good afternoon for me and for everybody else, different time zones. Hello everybody, I would like to talk today about the effective use of data on the FAO GM Foods platform, Malaysian experience. I have put together this information together with my colleague, Mr. Johnny Andrew, and we are actually quite relatively new in using this database. And it's a great database because it provides an avenue for us to put forward information to make it accessible to the public, to anybody who wants to know about this. And this is an additional database that we are currently using at the moment. So, okay, sorry for the typo, that's supposed to be browse. So there are a few ways that actually you can find information in this FAO database. So firstly, you can go through, look for information by knowing the OECD unique identifier. Or you can look for information by the commodity, whether it's a corn or a soya or canola, something like that. Or you can even go by the trait of how it has been modified. But what I'm going to talk about today is to look for information by the country. So it's important for you to know where the country is located. Like for example, I've given you an example of Malaysia. So you need to know where Malaysia is located for you to find the information based by the country category. So we are located in the Asia region. So there are other regions, like Africa, Asia, Europe, and so on and so forth. So what would be useful about the listing of the countries, when you go through the region would be, so you know who are the other neighboring countries who are actually contributing to the database. This would be useful for, monitoring or, unintended entry of any food product or something like that. So that would be useful. Right. So when you go on further into Malaysia, so this is the screen that you will see on your right. Okay. What it gives you is our list of approved decisions on GM food commodities. Other than that, it also gives you contact information about the competent authority, the people who actually made those decisions. Just in case you want to find out more about the decisions, then you have the contact details there. On top of that, you also have information about the national biosafety regulations. This is a summary about how we regulate GM food products, or in fact GMOs in Malaysia. So there's a summary, a small write-up about that. And then you also have some links. Because as I mentioned, in addition to FAO database, we also provide information in the CBD Biosafety Clearinghouse. And then we also have a national database, our biosafety website. Okay. So we also have these links provided here just in case, in addition to this, you can find also other information in the relevant links. We also have the contact details, as well as you can also see the date of the last modified information, meaning that how updated the database is. This actually, we update the information based on the decisions made. So every time there's a meeting to decide, then only we will update the database. So moving on, once the decision is made, so I will give you an example of this event called MON 88017 CON that we made a decision upon. So if you click on the decision for MON 88017, you will be able to see actually a whole list of countries who have information about this event. So you can go to Malaysia, whereby you can see in Malaysia who the applicant was, and then the date and the scope of the authorization. So what was it authorized to be used for? And then you can also get information on the website link. So it gives you decision about, if you go to this link here, you can see there's a finger there. If you go into this document, there's actually more information there. A general summary of the application. When did Malaysia receive the application? What was the application for? It gives you more details about the decision of the terms and conditions that they're going to be imposing based on the decision made by the National Biosafety Board. So the National Biosafety Board is actually the decision-making authority for Malaysia. So when you link to that document, this is what it looks like. Okay, so this is the report that we have and that you can link through the FAO database. So more detailed information is available in the risk assessment report. This is more of a technical kind of assessment report, whereby we also provide background of the application. So this one has a bit more detail about the event itself. What was the parent organism, what was the gene that was put in, and all that is found in this report. Risk assessment and risk management plan. Again, the proposed terms and conditions, because this is repeated also in the decision document. Any other regulatory considerations that we might think of that is related to the decision, and identification of issues for any long-term use, as well as the conclusion. In addition, we also have a list of documents there that we used for the assessment to take place, and also the identification of the GMAC members. GMAC is actually a technical assessment committee that is formed under the Malaysia regulatory system to assist the National Biosafety Board to make its decision. So for different events, you might have different people who actually contributed to making the recommendation in the form of the assessment of the event. Okay, so you can see the finger there. If you link to this place where it says GMAC RA report, this is where you can get the technical assessment report. When you click here, this is what it will look like. Risk assessment report by the GMAC. So this is the technical report that is available for you when you click to the link in the FAO database. So specifically, let's talk about more details inside the report. So for example, for the SMON 88017, we did an assessment based on 3 broad categories. First is effects on human health. So it was reviewed based on issues pertaining to the acute toxicity of the novel protein, altering, interference of metabolic pathways, potential allergenicity of the novel protein, production of proteins or metabolites, mutagenic, terrogenic, carcinogenic, potential transfer antibiotic resistance, and so on and so forth. So all these issues were related to effects on human health. So since this was an application for food, feed, and processing, so we also have to evaluate on the effects of animal health. So we also looked at issues pertaining to allergenicity, toxicity, and compromised nutritional content. So these were some of the categories of information that was assessed when we were doing the assessment for MON 88017. And then a final category was effects on environment. Okay, so you might say this is a bit weird because we are doing assessment not for planting but for food, feed, and processing. But we also take into consideration if there's unintentional release. So based on that, we actually have some proposal for risk management strategies. So that's why you also do effect on the environment as well. So this would be the 3 main categories of most of the food, feed, and processing applications that we have done in Malaysia. So finally, the effective use of the database. What can you actually get out of the database, the FAO database, when you look at the Malaysian input? You can get information about all the GM food commodities that are approved in Malaysia. It also provides public accessibility to information about the GM events. You have direct links to the technical risk assessment associated with the GM food commodities, and also references that was used to come up with the assessment, and also identification of the competent authority in Malaysia for making decisions on the GM food. Just say you find that the decision document is not complete enough, you want more information, or maybe some other administrative information about the whole process of the decision making for that particular event. You can contact us, and then we will be happy to provide any information. So that's why it's quite useful to have the contact details of the regulator or the decision makers. So in our opinion, the database is actually useful to how complete the database is. So we make every effort to make this database, our input for Malaysia, as updated as possible. Every time a decision is made, we follow the standard protocol whereby we update our national website, we update the FAO website, as well as the BCH, all 3 at the same time, so that the information is up to date, as well as to encourage use, because sometimes when you see the database, information is not up to date, so you're a bit discouraged from using the database. So that's why we try to make it a point to make sure that all the databases are on par with the updatedness of information provided in the database. So I guess that's all I have to say for now, and I will stop for any questions that you want or any clarifications about the presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Anita, for a really clear the presentation, and it was really wonderful in outlining all the process as well as some very concrete examples. And I think that it is very useful for many people to look into the data that you are